Okay, so the first step in creating our fidget cone is to create the inner portion of the cone. The inner portion of the cone is going to take 2 major steps and then a couple of minor steps. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and click on sweep. The first thing I'm going to choose is profiles. I want the inside of this shape that you see here. Then I'm going to hit path and I'm going to choose this helical path. And what you'll see is it'll create this green shape, and I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to take a moment to create this. And there we have it. Okay, so this is actually the piece we want, but we want this in a cone shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to extrude. And for the extrusion, we want to change this to 75. Make sure this is on 75. And right now it's on the default. What I want to do is I want to switch it to flipped. So make sure this is on flipped. And what it looks like it's doing is it's totally deleting everything I've done so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to change Boolean from cut to intersect. And so now we have it back, but now it looks like it's doing nothing. So we're going to change the taper angle to -15. And that looks a little bit more like what we want. And I'm going to hit OK. And so now we have sort of the interior of the cone shape. Now this top right here, it comes to a flat top, which is fine. But what we want to do is we want to round that off a little bit. We don't want it pointy. So I'm going to go to fillet. And right now it's set to 2 millimeters. I'm going to change that to, let's try 0.8. And I'm going to click on this edge, and you can see how it rounds it off. All right, so that looks good. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to go down to Export, CAD Format, and Save Type As. I want to change this to a STL file. And I want this to be in my H drive, and I have a folder called 3D printing in my H drive. And instead of lesson, I'm going to change that to my first and last name. Okay, you're going to give me your first and last name. That's how I can identify whose is whose. And then you're going to hit save. We can open up our lesson cone fidget outer, and you can see that this looks very similar. Now the lobes that this is made out of are a little bit larger than the lobes on the inner cone, because we want the inner cone to slide in and out of this easily. So these are a little bit bigger. Now the steps for this are very similar. We're just going to do the reverse. So I'm going to go to extrude first, and I'm going to click this most outer circle. And when I click on that, you can see that it should be going upwards, which is flipped. It should be at 75 millimeters, so you can change that if it's different. You can change the direction if it's different. And then the last thing is the taper angle. We want to make that -15 again. And that will make the same shape cone as the inner. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do is we need to create the a hole that's the shape of the that sort of star shape. So I'm going to go back up to sweep, and for this one, my profile, I want the outside of that sort of flower shape or the star shape. So I'm going to choose the outside of it, and then the path again is this path. And it's going to take a second because there's a lot to think about. And I want to change from join to intersect. And now it doesn't look like it's changed much, but what we're going to do is hit OK, and it should give you the opposite of what you had before, a cone shape. Okay, so now these tops, the problem with these tops is the printer will try to make these very sharp like that, and they're uncomfortable to hold in your hands, and they end up breaking off. So because they're so small, so what we want to do is we want to round those off. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new sketch. So right here I've got a new sketch, and we're going to draw the sketch. If I go to the origin, I have these different work planes. Okay, the YZ work plane, and you can see in green what that looks like. The XZ work plane, which is like the bottom of it, and the XY work plane. Okay, and so what we need to do is we need to choose the one that best gives us what we want. So XY is right there, and YZ is right there. So XY, because it's the closest to this point, is the one that's going to give us the best results. So we're going to click on that, and this looks kind of funny. It went kind of upside down on us. So over here where the cube is, there's these two arrows. I'm going to click that once and click it again. That'll flip it right side up. And so now what I want to do is I want to round these off pretty considerably. Okay. Now this one right here, I believe, is the one that we're seeing the right amount of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a rectangle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle that takes off. It looks like we're removing a lot of this, but these are very, very small when you're finished. So I draw a rectangle around the tip of this, and it should be a considerable amount. It almost looks like, you know, quite a bit. So then I'm going to hit Finish Sketch, and so now I'm going to go back to the home view, which looks like this, and there's my sketch, that purple sketch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Revolve, and when I revolve, I'm going to revolve this. Now I only had one profile to revolve, which is this rectangle, so it already chose that for me. Then I need an axis. Well, we need to create an axis, but we didn't put one in that sketch. So what we're going to do is we're going to cancel this. We're going to go back into Sketch 8. We're going to right click on this and say Edit Sketch. And so now what I want to do is, see this yellow dot at the bottom? That's the origin. I'm going to draw a line from the origin straight up like that. So that is going to be our axis that we are going to use. So then I'm going to Finish Sketch. So now that sketch has a line and a rectangle in it. And I'm going to go back to Revolve. Again, it shows, it's blue, so it already chose my my profile. And so now I just need to select the axis. So I click on this, and I click on that line that I drew, and you can see that it creates sort of a donut shape, which is good. The only problem is we don't want it to make something there, which is what join does. What we want to do is we want to remove stuff, so we want to cut. So I'm going to hit cut, and then I'm going to hit OK. So now you can see that we cut the sharp ends off of this, but it looks a little funny with those triangles. So we're going to go back to Fillet, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to select each one of these top lines. And then I'm going to change this from 2 millimeters. Let's try. I'm going to try 0.5 because that gives me a nice rounded top. Now yours is going to be different than mine is. And let's hit OK. And so now we're ready to print this out. So we're going to go to File, Export, CAD Format, and then change the word lesson to change this to your first and last name. Okay, if you want to do something kind of fun, you can go to Start 2D Sketch. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this cube up here to rotate, so we're looking at the bottom of this. And I'm going to click on this face. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some text here. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to put L for Liget. And there's my L. And so I'm going to move that a little bit. I'm going to hit Escape to get out of the text window. And I'm going to move this L so it's nice and centered. Okay. And I also want to make it sort of bold. So I'm going to change it to bold L. Okay, so I have a nice bold L on the bottom, and I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. And so now what I want to do is I want to put that L into this. So I'm going to hit Extrude. What profile do I want? I want this L. And then it looks like it's going the right direction, but it's making like a really long L. Okay, and I don't want that. So what I want to do is I want to make it like 1 millimeter, and instead of joining, I want it to cut into it. And then I'm going to hit OK. And what you'll find is I've got an L shape into the bottom. Now that's one way for you to identify that it's yours. So I will try to keep track, but that way, you know, the one with the L is going to be Mr. Liget's. So you can put a symbol there or whatever you want. So, but it does have to be kind of blocky, and it does, you know, you can't put you could put a letter between each one of these potentially, but there are some limits. All right, have fun making your 3D cones.